I consider myself a pretty romantic guy, so I was, trying to dig really deep for one, and I had like Aladdin, Hercules, Lady and the Tramp, a lot of Disney.
I think the writing was very good in this book. I will say, like, I enjoy a prose.
She actually listens to podcasts, unlike
our spouses.
The more I'm talking about, the more I'm getting upset. So
well, you're making me think, though, Isaac, like, why is this story so famous?
Let's go beyond the first page. Let's go beyond the first page.
Welcome back, Second Pagers. This is Beyond the First Page podcast with siblings Phoebe, Phil, and Isaac. I'm Phoebe.
I'm Phil.
I'm Isaac.
And this is Club Meeting 60. Congratulations to us, 60. I like to celebrate these round numbers. I don't think we did anything for 50. So here's a shout out to 60 episodes with you guys. And we are doing Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. We're discussing that today. And I just want to start because I, right before this, was listening to our intro episode again, where I got absolutely roasted for saying Wuthering Heights. And to me, they sound the exact same. There's just something in my ear that cannot tell the difference between those two words. So I'm going to say ahead of time, I know that it's Wuthering Heights, Wuthering. And if I say Wuthering, I mean Wuthering. And we don't have to correct me. We can just keep moving forward.
It's not the correct
It's
name.
the sibling podcast.
But in the overview, I was looking over our notes too, and I was like, kept calling Wuthering Heights. Should it just have been Withering? Like, what's a Wuthering?
Should we just change the name? Yeah, because I think that is much more apt with the entire story. So true, Isaac. Okay, so that's out of the way. You guys can still correct me. I'll try my best. Wuthering Heights. And I wanted to start off, and of course now I thought of this opener, and I'm realizing I'm fully unprepared and have not thought of anything for it. But I'll let Isaac and Phil go first. I wanted to do greatest love story ever told. And that is not to say that I think that this story is a love story, but I think a lot of people who haven't read the book or have only seen the movie, which is why we picked this book, may think it's a love story. And so we'll go on theme with that, and we'll talk about why we might not think it's the case. But Isaac, I'll turn it over to you for the greatest love story ever told.
So this, like, I consider myself a pretty romantic guy, so I was, trying to dig really deep for one, and I had like Aladdin, Hercules, Lady and the Tramp, a lot of Disney.
Yes, love stories.
Factors are in there. But I think one that has hit me, I've read this series twice and watched the TV show, and it's the His Dark Materials trilogy by Philip Pullman.
Who is the love story? Him and her?
Lyra and Will.
Lyra and Will, yeah, okay.
And
in the first one, they don't even know each other, do they?
No, Will's not even in the first one.
Yeah.
But the third one especially is about their, like, blossoming love, and so this is complete spoiler alert, but I think this is like one of the most gut-wrenching, like, love things I've ever read. They realize they fall in love with each other. They touch each other's demons, which is not supposed to happen. That's like it's like touching the other person's soul, essentially. And then they have to leave, and they have to close all the portals to all the different worlds, and they're from different worlds, and they leave the one portal to essentially like the afterlife for dead people, and close their own portals and have to go back to their own worlds. So it's like, you get to see these kids fall in love, and then they have this gut-wrenching separation with the promise of, like, we're still going to love each other. You're going to meet somebody. I'm going to meet somebody. But it's like a classic teenage love that is like, not classic teenage love, but like kind of that teenage love story. But that just is like gut-wrenching to read and watch. The show does a great job to stick to our theme of, books to screen.
To
show
movies,
does a great job showing that as well.
Wait, is this the Golden Compass? Is this the same?
Yeah.
Okay. I need to reread those, Isaac. You mentioned them a lot on the podcast. I will say, I thought you were going to say You and Emily, so that was a bit of a miss on your end. You could have really won some points there.
I thought of that immediately. I thought this was from literature or TV.
No, it was. Yeah.
I
thought of that immediately.
You said that. I was going to be like, I could just say this, and it would be, but then I thought I would get roasted, so I came up with a literary reference.
That is something that you would say, so I was surprised you didn't. Or Phil, you would actually, both of you are quite the romantics. You would maybe say that too. No, good one, Isaac. Thanks for sharing. Phil, what about you? Greatest love story ever told?
Yeah. Besides probably Rod and Denise, I would go.
Yes.
I actually love this is not, I understand it's not true. But I love the Knight's Tale romance. I do think that rom-coms for me just actually are much more romantic.
Wait, is this the jousting movie? You talking about the jousting movie? Wait, Phil, that is the most niche. I asked to watch that movie probably once a month. I love that movie.
It's so good. Movie. It's so
and
good.
Jaden's always like, why are you so into that movie?
Yeah.
It's so good.
You know what? Another one that's like that, Hidalgo. You guys ever see that?
I have never seen that.
I'm down.
It has it all.
Should we watch it?
It has it all.
Okay.
But Phil, not to take away from you, I thought you were going to say the Rick Riordan.
So I can't say that because my wife and I are reading. So that is correct, but okay. I can't say who it's between because my wife and I are currently reading, and it's in the 9th book of the series.
And she actually listens to the podcast, unlike my
so
unlike our spouses.
I feel very validated that you remembered that, though, Isaac. Yes, that is the greatest love story of all time. I used to read that. So there's a chapter in the 4th book of the 2nd series of the Percy Jackson series that I used to read when I was feeling really lonely in college. I was like, I just want to meet a girl like this.
You two are killing me right now.
Anyway.
Wait, so those are all of yours, Phil? You shared yours?
Yeah. Knight's Tale and then, yeah.
Okay, nice. Well, so this isn't a book, but it's a movie, and it's probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite rom-coms, if not one of my favorite movies. It's called About Time. It has Rachel McAdams in it, and it's a love story. The guy can time travel in it, and so he makes mistakes and then goes back and corrects them if things don't go the way he wanted, especially with finding his wife. But it's really sweet. But there's also a great love story between him and his dad that I think is really special, and I think the movie has it all. It has the friendship between him and his dad, and also him and his wife, the love that between them. So that would be mine, I think, without thinking too much about it. That's just something that really comes to mind. That's a genuine love story. And so that would be mine. But that was fun. Thanks, guys. And again, Wuthering Heights is really not a love story. So not sure why I picked that as a theme. Well, tell us about it in 15 seconds, Isaac, and then we can talk, because I have a thought right off the bat about the movie. So go ahead.
Wuthering Heights is about a love affair of Catherine Earnshaw and Heathcliff, her childhood playmate. That was her father's ward, and they end up being, they're both their first loves. Catherine ends up marrying her neighbor Edgar Linton because he provides more social climbing, and Heathcliff really takes that personally, to quote Michael Jordan, and takes revenge on both Catherine's and Edgar's entire family. And that's the book.
That is the book. And so you can hear there is a love interest obviously in it. I think that, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie, probably not. That doesn't seem like something either of you would pay to go see. But I feel like it's complete propaganda and entirely not following the book at all. He's sucking on her fingers, and that never happened in the book, obviously. And it's completely misleading people to say that it's a love story, I think, too. Like even just the commercials, you know, and people are leaving it sobbing. And I'm like, what are you sobbing about? What is there?
That's
There was
interesting.
none of that from the book, I feel personally. And I wanted to
I
get
do
your
think
guys'
there's like
on that.
some obsession. I think I do think that you could maybe mirror that as like sucking on fingers or something that I don't know. But that could be like there was this fanatic sort of not attraction. It wasn't like attraction is a hard word, right? Because there's like a positive connotation to it. And there wasn't it was more as if somebody was like taking a love potion but knew that they had taken it and hated that they felt this way about it was that level
They
of
were doing it to
obsession about it.
themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was this masochistic love rather
Yeah.
than any type of romantic or would have sad feelings about love. Yeah.
Well, you said in the opener too, Phil, like this wasn't love. This was like an obsession. And
Yeah.
I actually think you outlined it very well. It's interesting to me that the movie is portraying it that way. Obviously, like that's gonna get a lot of viewership. So maybe that was just their adaptation. I mean, it is a book to movie adaptation, right? So it's not like 100%, but I think it's not doing the story justice if that's the line that they decide to take, because it's just very different.
If I had to guess, and obviously this is like maybe not a helpful comment or conversation like going because none of us have seen the movie, but if I was turning this into a movie, I would take Catherine's sort of like move to marry Edgar and then Heathcliff back, and like the love story would be this Heathcliff attempting to win back Catherine.
Yeah.
Is
Which
how I would
which I
spin
think
this.
it seems like from the commercials that's what it is. It's more of an emphasis on,
Yeah.
and I think actually it's a part one. Like they don't even go into the whole second half of the book with the kids.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so it's like very.
They're gonna make another movie.
I don't know if they're making another movie, but they just captured like that part of the story. Because I think they did what you're describing, Isaac, to really like dramatize that, which again is not at all accurate. I mean, that's less than half the book. So
that's why I really actually love Wuthering Heights. I think it's so interesting because I do think that like it is not love. Like it's crazy that Heathcliff takes the only genetic offspring of Kathy, like the only remnants of Kathy in the world, and abhors them. Like absolutely does not care at all, but has an obsession with their mother. Like an absolute, and
he
it's
wants
so
them to
crazy that,
have a
like,
demise. Not just that he doesn't care; it's that he wants them to suffer.
right? No, yeah,
Yeah.
he hates them. He abhors them, and I think that if anything, Emily Brontë could have lent more ink to developing this obsession in their childhood, because I think it hits somebody pretty strong of, I mean, the line is that Kathy says is I am Heathcliff. Like she is him. I feel like maybe you had like 10 pages about how they frolicked in the moors and it seemed like a childhood romance and did not seem that infatuated, but he comes back and both of them are just completely irrationally, compulsively in love with each other.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting, at least.
I don't think it is unreasonable to despise, like, say you're super in love with somebody and then they spurn you and have kids, to be like, I don't really like their kid. Like, that is, I think, okay. But to move back to the neighborhood and then like take their kid on just to wreck them is insane.
That's sort of what I meant. Not care, but abhor them. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting, Phil, what you were saying. I think the writing was very good in this book. I will say, like, I enjoy a prose. I thought it was very beautifully written. I agree with you. It is on par, if not better than any, any of the other Brontë sisters or Jane Austen. You know, it's in that league, if not better. I think, though, the time spent on their relationship felt very rushed to me versus the time spent on their kids' relationship. Now, I think, again, because this is not a love story, I personally think it's a revenge story, as you guys are mentioning. And so I think it makes sense to spend more time on the relationship between the kids. So I felt that there was a lot of time spent on Linton and young Kathy's relationship and their courtship. And it was to me, I just didn't really care at that point, because you already have this whole Heathcliff, older Kathy playing out, and really nothing happens. Like, she marries this other guy for seemingly no reason, because as you said, Isaac, it does help her status, but it's not that crazy of a status jump. I mean, Heathcliff was a nobody, so obviously he wouldn't have been that helpful in her social climbing, but it wasn't like this guy was like some very wealthy duke or something, you know? So that didn't really make any sense to me. And I just don't think there was enough time spent on their relationship as kids, their relationship in their youth, and then the whole marriage thing felt very rushed. Even like to hear that she was having an heir, it was one sentence, and then you find out, you know, obviously you learn after that Kathy is born, but if you were not reading carefully, you could miss that she was even pregnant during her whole episode. So that felt very rushed to me. And then you're spending the majority of the book on this like secondary relationship, but it's because you don't get that initial development, I think, then you kind of just don't really care anymore, in my opinion. Like, the secondary relationships of the kids, when Heathcliff is trying to ruin their lives, you're just kind of like, can we just get to the end of this book, honestly? Like, that's kind of where I felt. And so I think maybe the plot is what I'm trying to say was missing something for me. And I don't think you have to have a love story to make it interesting, but I think because she rushed the initial relationships, the latter relationships that she wanted to really focus on didn't hold any weight for me. And that's where I think this story fell short for me.
I think instead of providing this emotional background of why younger Kathy would marry Linton, it's instead given explicit detail of all of the ways that older Heathcliff hoodwinked them into that relationship. Because it is like, it's not really born from affection. It's born from this like guilt that he's always sick and that she has to take care of him to protect him against his father.
And it's kind of this forbidden thing. Like, they're not supposed to be seeing each other. So then that makes her want to do it more. Yeah.
I think that one thing that's been missing from our podcast and would be bad to not include is, I think, and unfortunately, this is where like a literary history would be helpful, but Heathcliff is referred to as an Iascar, which is like either someone of the Romani origin or someone of South Indian origin. Because remember, this is like India and England at that point were like trading partners as India was colonized by England. So I think that it's not as much, and I want to say this, it's not really that Edgar maybe was a status jump. It was that marrying Heathcliff was actually off the table. Yeah, I mean, it was like would not have been accepted by society. And I think that gives a little bit of credence to why Heathcliff is so mad at the world at this point.
And he has a chip on it, such a big chip on his shoulder. Yeah.
Right. And I think that
and why she wouldn't marry him, even though she
and
clearly
that
wasn't
like
with
historical
him.
context is helpful because he is like described as like having dark skin and being in Iascar. And it's sort of ambiguous of what that means, whether it's African, Indian, or like Romani. But yes, definitely like a social outcast.
No, glad you mentioned that, Phil, because I didn't realize that. And I think that does lend a lot of context to the situation for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, good catch, Phil. What do we think about the fact they're cousins? You think that's just part of the time?
No one's going to mention
We're just
that.
sort of mentioning that casually.
Also true, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was...
I think it was
normal.
like a little bit more just the times. Still weird though.
Yeah, very weird.
It doesn't make you like invested in any kind of potential love.
Yeah.
interest.
Right.
Unfortunately,
You're kind
that
of rooting
is-
against
by any
it.
That is like definitely the times, because Jane Austen like almost always has a
Exclusively
cousin
a
as a love
cousin.
interest.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
so funny.
Didn't like that then either.
Yeah,
so-
right.
It was
in Jane.
definitely
Yeah.
Jane Eyre.
Yeah,
that
who was
was
the cousin in
Charlotte
Jane Eyre? That's what I was
Brontë.
trying to think of.
Oh,
Who
that
was
was
she
her
marrying?
older,
The two
the
cousins
brother.
that were cut out of the will.
Oh,
and then,
right. And then they
yeah.
were going to get married. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
But-
I wanted to mention something, Phil. I thought you really brought up a good point, and I reread this to talk about this today because I did feel like I missed a few things first time around. Turns out I didn't. It just that's the way the book was written. But I think that you brought up a really good point with the unreliable narrator, and I wanted to talk more about that and get your guys' thoughts on it because I guess I'm kind of curious. I did feel like Nellie was an extremely unreliable character. She was or an unreliable narrator. She was very biased. She didn't really like any of them, so maybe that makes her less biased.
Except
but
older Kathy. I mean, she had some soft spot for this girl that was absolutely
And for
maniacal.
Heathcliff.
She didn't have a soft spot
She
for
hated
Heathcliff.
Heathcliff.
Hated
She
Heathcliff.
She went back and worked for him and was like advising him at the end
well,
of the book.
she went back to work for young Kathy, and Heathcliff just like happened to be trapped her. And then I guess at the very end, yes, she was helping him like with his will and
I
stuff
thought
like
she
that.
had a soft spot.
She kind of had a soft spot for everybody at certain points, and then would be like annoyed at them at certain
I
points.
mean, I think she told
Like, she
this.
definitely was like, Heathcliff is a bad guy.
Yeah.
But then would keep going back and like serving him and helping him.
I don't know. I wouldn't. This is another point where it might be historically a little bit hard to grasp this. I don't know if, and I could be wrong here. I don't know if she's like sort of trapped on these lands. Like she's been living there for
Yeah,
50
like,
years. That's her like
level
live.
of
Like
society.
yeah, she's got the house and room and board, and she just serves the master of this house. I
Yeah.
thought she was very ungenerous to Heathcliff. I thought she was so ungenerous that it made the love, like it made Kathy seem insane, like for having an
loving him.
infatuation with him. Yeah. And I guess I'm maybe giving benefit of the doubt to Emily Bronte, but I think she writes it that way to like sort of point at the fact that this is all being told from a narrator that can't even logically make the listener understand this love.
So do you think that's the reason she chose to tell it through the point of view of Nellie? Like to make it uncomprehendable? Or I guess my question was like, why did she decide to tell this story through a person that would not even have the full details?
I said my piece in our intro episode. Like to me, it reads like an author trying to make this more highbrow than it needs to be.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
And I don't know if there was awards back then. Like this was published in the 1800s, right? Yeah. So if there was like literary awards or she was going for some prominence, like this was the only book she wrote.
I think she also,
if she was trying to really be profound or something, but I was just like, this could have started at chapter 4, or like this just needed to just
the beginning was
I'm
rough.
so sick. I'm sick of the unreliable narrator, and I'm sick of
I want the facts, damn it.
Story written. The story, like, and I appreciate it on another podcast, Phil. You said that I have stuck true to this, and I feel like I have. This idea of hiding information from the reader
is annoying.
Just for the sake of suspense is not good.
Isaac
writing.
hates dramatic irony.
It is a cheat
by definition.
It is a like such a cheat and such a like cheap thrill. And it needs to stop.
It
I
can be
think
done
some
well.
people probably do it
Yes.
correctly, and we can probably think of some books that have done it well. I think Phoebe said like, "Oh, I love this writing, this prose." I don't know what you call this writing, but I hate it. And maybe that is really the
crux of
point.
everything.
Like that is like the thing that is underneath my skin. But it just seems like this story did not need it. It made
more
it
confusing.
More confusing. We haven't even talked about the multiple Cathys, which I talked about in the beginning.
Don't bring those up right now.
And there's just things here that like didn't need to be this way, that could have maybe lent this to be more of a true revenge story, and maybe there wouldn't be this confusion about the love story. I don't know.
It
But the more I'm talking about it, the more I'm getting upset. So I'll let
well,
someone else
you're
say.
making me think though, Isaac, like why is this story so famous? Like what about it stuck with people? And Phil, you kind of touch on this in the overview. I think to reiterate it on the episode would be good because I think Isaac and I are struggling to find the merit in it. And maybe you can shed some light for our listeners.
Yeah, I mean, I think that why I like it is it's not that traditional love story. There is no happy resolution. Again, without making a blanket statement, there are a ton of these books written in this time frame that are boy meets girl, boy courts girl, boy screws up, girl forgives boy, and then they live happy ever. This is very different than that. And it deals with, I think that like, I know it's annoying, Isaac, but I also think that it lends itself to a lot of speculation and that type of depth of having all of these like, did Nellie hate Heathcliff? Is Nellie even telling the truth here? Those ambiguities lend themselves to very interesting conversations. And I do think that I'm often torn between with literary classics. I'm often torn, are we giving authors too much of like a benefit? Like especially in poetry, like did they really mean this
Too much
crazy
credit.
thing? Yeah.
Yeah. Like we're
And
reading
then
it.
the
Like
other
Isaac
half
said
of the
that.
time, I'm like, okay, actually they did. Like they did work on this. And I do think that that half is actually right. I think sometimes it is annoying, especially if you didn't like the book. But I think the amount of depth that's poured into like this book at this like time period is just super different than like
Than anything
most
else
of
that
the
was
other
being
stuff
written.
that you've read. Yeah. So
Good
I think
point.
it reads like a Jane Austen, as you said, Phoebe. And I think that Isaac also, very valid point. Like, this is not your cup of tea and like will never be your cup of tea.
Yeah.
You could write an absolute banger of a story and write it like this, and you'd be like, this story is mid. And that's like fine.
What is this called?
Um
18th or 19th century woman writing?
It's
England?
not
Like,
woman.
what-
It's
Victorian. I
Charles
think it's
Dickens.
Victorian.
It's
era.
Victorian Gothic. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
not she published this as a man. So for sure not woman author. Crazy thing to say.
It's brutal.
Well, the only other one I've read is
Jane
her
Eyre,
sister,
yeah.
and it was just as bad.
Yeah. Well, no, Jane Eyre
also
was
published
funny.
as a man.
But there are women that wrote it.
Like they were women. Yes, obviously. Yes. Yes.
But I'm saying that it was
Thank you for clarifying that, Isaac.
it was given to the population for them to believe it was like a male writing.
Yeah.
But I do think Dickens
God
is
forbid,
Dickens is like this as well, and it is hard to read. And I think that this is sort of a little bit of my issue with Shakespeare. So I get what you mean by that as well. But that's where I see the
appeal.
merit in this book. Yeah.
Yeah. I think also, I think, thank you for bringing that up, Phil. I think you are correct in saying that probably.
You talked me off.
Yeah. I think the other thing about having Nellie, I know I keep coming back to this because I haven't heard like a good answer as to why she would have been made the narrator. And I think it could also be, this is just complete speculation on my end, but more approachable to like Shakespeare really spoke to a big audience because he talked about like commoners and stuff, and he was supposed to be a commoner. So I think maybe like that's also an aspect of like you're bringing in the maid servant essentially to tell the story. So you're giving this person a really big role in your book. And that could also have spoken to the general population. Although I don't know if like everyone in the general population could read, so that I don't know if you were speaking to them that much. Was there anything else you guys wanted to talk about? We could go into our ratings if you don't have anything else.
Yeah, I think that my only thing that I liked about the last thing that I liked about this book is that there is not really a happy resolution or sort of any type of resolution at all. I think I'm growing to like those more as we had this in Tana French's as well.
Sure.
Just sort of this leaving the reader with this ambiguous ending, I think is super realistic. And I'm starting to like that a lot more.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable as a reader because you do want that boy meets girl, like they have a happy ending type of thing. But I agree. It definitely makes it more interesting. Actually, that's a perfect segue for me. My recommendation, if you liked Wuthering Heights and wanted a more present day love story, quote unquote love story, I would recommend Normal People by Sally Rooney. I don't want to give too much away with that kind of
that's
segue.
very good, Phoebe.
But that would be thanks, Phil. But that would be my recommendation. And I gave this book a 3, but we don't need to like dwell on the ratings, I think, too much. But obviously people have deemed this a classic and people who know way more about literature than us, but that's just my personal take. Phil, what about you?
Yeah, I really like that recommendation. I would give it a 4, I think. It would be in the middle of these books. I think I liked The Odyssey the most, and then I like Hamnet the least. And then this one in the middle. The one that I would recommend was What Souls Are Made Of by Tasha Suri, and it's actually a sort of remix on this Wuthering Heights. It's a modern retelling, but it covers Heathcliff's and Kathy's absence of each other. So like what happens in those years that Heathcliff goes away, that he comes back so vengeful. That is not told in Victorian, so it's told in sort of a modern day format.
Yeah, that does sound more interesting than this book, I have to say.
Yeah.
That's a good recommendation for our listeners. Isaac, what about you?
I give this a 2. This would be my
least favorite
of the 3 books we read. I like The Odyssey, Hamnet, and
that's not shocking.
I would recommend The Count of Monte Cristo. This is not a love story like we talked about. It's a revenge story. So if you want to read a good revenge story, read The Count of Monte Cristo.
I should read that this year. I think that's also a movie, or it just came out as a movie, right? Or it's coming out.
Yeah, I think it's in French, though. It came out
okay.
Or 2024.
Yeah.
But it's in French, so I didn't
yeah.
watch it. But we were talking about this earlier. I'm kind of into the shows with subtitles.
Yes, so we could. Yes, I like them too. That's what we were
A
talking about.
worldly man.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, unless it's the Brontë.
Correct.
Then perhaps no. Well, that would be an
You're
English,
just
so
very
it's okay.
Anglo-Saxons, actually.
Cool. Well, next time, so we're going to read The Odyssey next, as we've been talking about, but then we also want to talk about our next chapter to kind of start to introduce people to that. So Isaac, could you just briefly tell us before we go about both The Odyssey and then also the next chapter that we're doing?
Yes. So The Odyssey is a story of Odysseus after the Battle of Troy, and he faces challenges on his way home back from Ithaca. For the next chapter, we're going to be reading some classic Americana. We haven't picked them yet, but our friend Don is actually running a project where he is traveling through the 13 original colonies, promoting these books for the 250th anniversary of America. And we're teaming up with his project, and we're going to read 3 of those and discuss them and hopefully have some
guests on the way.
Either him or some qualified people to be on and talk about them. So really excited for that. And it should pair up nicely ending around the 4th.
Yeah. Yeah. We're very excited to talk about that and be a part of that in any way that we can and promote that, that project. But we also are talking to Don about The Odyssey next week. So hopefully he's going to be a frequent flyer on the podcast in the next few months, which is a pleasure for us. So I'm very excited to talk about The Odyssey with you guys next time, and also really looking forward to doing the Americana chapter next. And like Isaac said, ending kind of around that 4th of July timeframe. This is your biweekly reminder to call someone that you love, tell them that you love them, tell them about a good book or Beyond the First Page podcast and all the exciting things that are happening in the future. And until we talk again, stay classy, Second Peters. We'll see you later.